My name is Vance Cryer. I work at Lockheed Martin as a senior manager for Missiles and Fire Control Advanced Programs. I'm a retired Marine veteran, 28 years. Flew Harriers in the Marine Corps and commanded the 15th Marine Expeditionary Unit. Memorial Day is to remember those who have paid the ultimate sacrifice for our nation. If you serve, you are going to bury some close friends. My best friend in flight school's name was Steve Beguer. He was the son of first-generation German immigrants from World War II to this country. First generation to serve in the armed forces. He was killed in an accident. Colonel Leffler is another. Dale Mulkey is another one. He was my operations officer out at Yuma. We could go on and on. The price that's paid is a heavy price. They gave everything. Your servicemen and women are less than 1% of the nation. That less than 1% have given up all that they are and all that they're going to be. And their families are still grieving, they're still mourning, and they always will. And so it's an important time to just stop and pause for the nation. And I think Lockheed wants to be a part of that. The people at Lockheed give of themselves every day to make a difference for this country, and 1 in 5 are veterans. During this Memorial Day weekend, stop and look in your communities, in your neighborhoods, in your churches. Look for those veterans, look for those Gold Star families, and just find a way to serve them. Find a way to just remember the sacrifice and come alongside them and bless them in some way. That's what this is about.